So I've got a question here. We've got 5x to the 4 minus 7x squared minus 3x plus 11 divided by x minus 2. Now we don't know what x is, so this is quite a complex algebra question. So using polynomial long division is a technique what we're going to do. Now if we had just numbers in there, we'd use a method which is called the bus stop technique. Now for this we can use the same method as well. So going on to that, let's draw the bus stop method. So we start off with a line like this, and denominator goes on the outside, just as you would with numbers. Now we put this polynomial on the numerator inside the box. Now we've got to be careful how we do that. So what we do is we put the higher indices of the x on the left hand side and reduce the indice value as we go along to the right. So the highest one here is x to the 4. So we've got 5x to the 4. Now we don't have an x cubed, but to help us with our working out, I'm going to put one in. Now as x cubed is not in there, I don't want to change the value, so I'm going to add 0x cubed. Now you'll see why that is in a moment. We've got an x squared, so 7x squared is the minus, so minus 7x squared. Then we've got minus 3x, and then plus 11. So that's the setup that we do for our long division. Now what we do is we pick off one of these at a time, starting from the left, and we divide it by the x term. The minus 2 at the moment we're not concerning ourselves with, so we're just going to use this x term. So the first one is 5x to the 4, so we divide that by x to get 5x cubed. Now I'm going to write this in the cubed column, that's why I put that in. So if I put that in the corresponding column, 5x cubed. Now the minus 2 I don't do anything with here, and I can't do it anyway, so we just leave it at that. So now this value in the top here, I'll multiply it with this term and this term. So distribute this back in. So I'll get 5x cubed times x is 5x to the 4. And you should always get those two terms equal. And then now we distribute this with the minus 2. So 5x cubed times minus 2 is minus 10x cubed. So I'll write that in the cubed column. So that keeps it nice and neat. So now what I do is I subtract what I've distributed back into from our original polynomial that's on the numerator. So subtracting these, those will disappear. And then I've got a 0 minus 10x cubed. So that's going to give me positive 10x cubed. So I'm going to write the positive there just to see. And then these will come down one in turn. So as they're just zeros in there, I'm going to subtract 0 from each, so they'll remain the same. So I'm just going to leave them with just arrows pointing down to save me having to write back in. So now this 10x cubed, this is the part of interest. So 10x cubed now, I divide it by x. If I do that, I get 10x squared. So if I write that in corresponding column to the x squared, I've got 10x squared. And now this part here, I'll distribute with these two. Now bearing in mind, this bit in the top is going to be my answer. So 10x cubed times x, 10x cubed. So that's good because it matches what we've got there. Should always be checking for that. Then the 10x squared times the minus 2 is minus 20x squared. So put that in corresponding column there, minus 20x squared. Okay, and now subtract all these values along here. So 10x cubed minus 10x cubed, that's going to be 0, so that cancels. Now I've got this one bringing down, so I've got minus 7x squared minus 20x squared. So minus 7x squared plus 20x squared gives me positive 13x squared. And these, I'm now going to bring these down just so I don't get too confused with what's going on. So I've got minus 3x plus 11. You don't have to, but it's just so as I can see what's going on as I go along here. Now this is the point of interest. 13x squared divided by x gives me 13x. So I add 13x. Okay, now distribute this part of the answer back into here. So I'll get 13x squared. And 13x times minus 2 is minus 26x. So again, taking care to make sure all the single power of x's are in a line. So again, as we did before, subtract. They will cancel out. Minus 3x minus 26x. This is where we need to go careful. So it's minus 3x plus 26x. So that's going to give you 23x. And as I've come to the last one here, I just write that in just to keep it nice and easy. 23x. This is now my point of interest. 23x divided by x is plus 23. So write that in our integers column. 23 back into here. 23x. Okay, 23 in with the minus 2. That gives me minus 46. So that's minus 46. Usual business, subtract. That one will disappear. Now 11 minus 46 gives me 57. So it becomes 11 plus 46. So now 57 won't go into x. So now this is my remainder. So when we did normal long division with numbers, we have a remainder. So this here is my remainder. Now the remainder I divide by my initial denominator. So then I can add 57 over x minus 2. And that's my remainder. So my answer to this question, x cubed plus 10x squared plus 13x plus 23, and not forgetting the remainder, plus 57 over x minus 2. And that's polynomial long division of this one here, and that's the result I get. Okay.